right, we're live. It is the
Yo.
dirty what at the time slot of what was before the Saturday afternoon podcast. I hope you guys doing well.
Yep.
I'm Joel Flam, and I am with my co-host Nicolas Pitiktekis. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you for changing it to this time because, just to be honest, doing it Wednesday at 10 o'clock after just finishing an 8 hour long shift, I was not at my best, obviously, but now I'm feeling
Yeah.
a little bit, energized since it's Saturday and I was able to take a slightly longer nap than normal to get myself up there. Yes,
Yeah.
I am that type of old man at heart.
That's all right, man. Thanks for soldiering in during the whole time we were
Anytime,
on Wednesday night.
anytime,
All right.
anytime.
So basically that was the initial plan. Like when we started the Quick and Dirty, I thought like, okay, so I that's gonna be the podcast that's gonna replace the Saturday afternoon podcast. And then after that, I don't know what the fuck happened. I had a boost of like motivation to do like that many podcasts.
Yeah.
And then after that, like everything that happened, when I have a boost of motivation, it fades away, and then I just like I was at some point, okay, fuck it. We're just gonna put it like Saturday. Also, the shows are beginning again, and Wednesday is one of those time that there's a possibility of a show. And talking about it, Wednesday, the 14th of July, I am booked at the Comedy Nest for the Comedy Lab. Yeah. So basically, it's a joke contest that I half-ass all the time because I don't believe in comedy contests. I kind of like just use it as an opportunity to write new jokes. And also, the Sunday, the 4th of July, I'm gonna be the brass door doing all my rape jokes. It's gonna be awesome. Like it's gonna be uncomfortable for a bunch of people that haven't figured out what the 34 is about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good time when you're into this kind of fucking weird shit. It's a good time, I think.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. So if you have anything else to add, we'll get to the first subject, right?
Nope, I have nothing to add. Just to say, hey, like I'd rather again just do it at this time, given that again, I like folks. Just to say this, so I often finish my shift for working from home at like 9 or 9:15 or 9:30,
Yeah.
and for the last couple of months I've been finishing at 9:30, so it's already a little bit tight in terms of like finishing on time and getting myself ready. So it's like this is a far better time for me personally. So it's
But
good
you're an
that we're
amazing
doing.
guy because you never look like that tired. You never look like you'd rather be somewhere else. You always like soldier in, and, like put your head down and just fucking push that thing. And thanks for that, man. You're still a
Anytime.
fucking awesome co-host. All right, so
I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best.
All right, awesome. So let's get to the first subject. So the first subject is Jon Stewart has broke the internet yet again.
Yep.
He made an apparition on the Stephen Colbert show. Where he basically make jokes promoting, not promoting, but in the favor of the lab leak theory about how that the plague, the Chinese virus, according to the racist, or the bad flu, according to the fucking weirdos like me. Yeah. So basically, in essence, what the jokes are, it's like, gee, ain't that funny that the place where the virus started is Wuhan as a lab, which has the name of the fucking virus. Gee, why we're not looking into that fucking thing, and why we're beating around the fucking bush with all sort of crazy explanation, like I think if I remember well, the example he's using is there's been an outbreak of he's basically if I can quote him, it's like the disease is the same name as the lab. That's just a little too weird, don't you think? What about this? There's an outbreak of chocolatory goldness near Hershey, Pennsylvania. What do you think happened? Oh, I don't know. Maybe a steam shovel made with a cocoa bean. Or it's the fucking chocolate factory. So there you go. So and there's a bunch of fucking people that has been losing their shit over it. So I want to hear it. Hear you on that.
Well, obviously, you should never count Jon Stewart out in terms of him actually like sort of looking into things that are of note, or certainly looking like we can never stop Jon Stewart from doing his thing. Like we all know that he was there 110% for like the first responders for 9/11,
Yeah.
and his like fight for them to get some sort of like medical assistance from the Congress. Like we have to applaud him for that 100%.
Mm.
The fact that yes, we all know where his bias is. He's more center left leaning, like Bill Maher,
Yeah.
for example, on HBO's Real Time. He still speaks truth to power, and he doesn't mince his words, and he at least knows that he has to speak clearly and to not like like beat around the bush.
Mm.
He's very succinct in what he thinks, and that unlike a lot of folks on the left right now who refuse to see reality for what it is because they need to be they have to be like overly sensitive or politically correct. Jon Stewart at least is able to speak his mind on it and actually make people laugh at the same time.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that the right respect and the left respect, because when there's something stupid happening, whatever on which team it's happening, he will fucking make jokes about it. I remember like one of the politician he respected the most for a long time was Rand Paul, which is Ron Paul, which is basically a Republican politician.
Yeah, from Texas, the father of the current Republican Senator Rand Paul, who represents Kentucky, the junior senator.
Yeah.
No. I think what he did was a service to a lot of us, because a lot of people were saying, though again, to say this clearly, the Chinese people or the Chinese government, or no, it's not even a government, it's a regime.
Yeah, the regime.
They could have been far more transparent over what happened initially, and it could have saved us a lot of commotion. It could have saved us from having to speculate and having to come up with cockeyed theories like this. Again, this is where we as a species and we as like nation states need to think clearly. We need to say what is the truth, no matter how harmful it is.
It's not harmful. Like basically, if China fucked up, like he needs to be held accountable.
No, of course. The fact that like that given the new release from like Anthony Fauci, who was like the public head of like public health in the United States, like Dr. Arruda here in Quebec or Dr. Theresa Tam here federally in Canada, the fact that those leaks sort of exploded what was considered conspiracy theory, like,
which I don't understand why though. Because it's just lab leak. It's not like we're saying it's the fucking lizard people that wanted to wipe out the humanity so they have a free planet for themselves. Like it's just like lab leak. It could mean an accident, right? It can mean somebody fucked up.
I know. No. It's like again, it helps us to understand what happened at the beginning of all this, because again, we have to understand what happened at the beginning for us to better prepare for the future, in order for us to better combat the coronavirus, which I have to say, luckily for many of us, I've received my first vaccine. I can imagine you've received your first vaccine as well. So it's like, at least we're getting at it at that point. But what I found very illuminating during that exchange when Jon Stewart was there, and again, he tends to pass by Stephen Colbert's show from time to time, because hey, Stephen Colbert owes a lot of his career in comedy and in the sphere to Jon Stewart, so he it's like he kind of owes him that favor from time to time, since of course Jon Stewart finished up his stint on the show and gave his show to Trevor Noah. Though I remember John Oliver was hosting the show briefly while Jon Stewart was off doing other things. So what I found very illuminating was like Stephen Colbert, who before, when he was doing his like conservative personality, he was very hilarious. Like I laughed so much, and again, liberals and conservatives in the United States really appreciated that that character that Stephen Colbert did. But now
it was like a mockery parody of like Bill O'Reilly, if I remember well.
Yeah. I think that's the case. 100%.
Yeah.
But what I found very illuminating was, despite the fact that Jon Stewart was speaking objective truth, like you still saw a considerable deal of discomfort from Stephen Colbert,
which is
certain elements
fucking weird. I can't explain that one.
It's very weird that despite objective reality has changed because we have this new credible information from the leaks from Anthony Fauci's emails. You still see a considerable segment of the left in the United States and the center left that just refuse to see reality because they're so beholden to that truth that is no longer the truth. Like, again, this is what happens when I don't know if it's like ideological thinking. I don't know if it's like what could be the case, like with many things, is something that was said in a book that I read recently by Dr. Gad Saad called The Parasitic Mind, and I would recommend everyone read it. Like, it is a parasite of the mind where, like, despite the fact that reality is this, but then it's like it's biting you in the ass and it's preventing you from accurately understanding the issue that is in front of you and that you're doing something else. Like the one example that he brings up in his book, and just let me explain it from what I understand. It's like how you have certain parasites that infect mice that sort of, because mice, like they typically want to get away from cats because cats are their apex predator. If let's say the mice are infected by a certain parasite that is attracted to the digestive systems of felines and to sort of get into the digestive systems of felines, that parasite would force the mice to seek out cats in order so that the parasite in the mice can finally get into the digestive system and other systems of cats. So it's sort of like that, like the parasite prevents a proper functioning of your flight and fight response, and instead it forces you to do something that typically and naturally you wouldn't do.
Yeah, but there's the thing, like when we say lab leak, it doesn't mean that they launch it willfully on the fucking planet.
Of course, we have to be very clear, but if that is actually the case, then holy shit.
Yeah, like enough is enough. But I don't think it's that. Like if it's just a minor fuck up and they try to brush it under the fucking carpet and try to hide it to the world, it's still fucking bad. It's still a fucking bad look on the fucking regime. And the way they manage it, like they did a big party in the outbreak of the pandemic, like at the beginning of the pandemic in Wuhan, with officials from across the fucking country, and they ignored the whole thing for the longest time. And then after that, they were one whistleblower in China that they tried to silence and died of the fucking virus.
I know. Like,
so, yeah.
No, of course. So, I mean, it's like the way that they handle it in terms of trying to suppress the information, while those leakers who are actually trying to speak truth to power and say, what the hell is going on right now? We need to warn our fellow colleagues in the name of proper science and in the name of like proper ethics and morality.
Yeah, like we're trying to do... the WHO fucking ignored Taiwan also and Japan.
Yeah.
No,
of course. Obviously, regardless of the situation, we're now starting to see many more countries, like even like the Biden-Harris administration, and I say Biden-Harris administration because let's be honest, like Biden isn't all there. Let's be honest about that.
It's the Kamala Harris presidency, basically.
No, of course. Yeah. But even the Biden-Harris administration and other countries around the world are beginning to turn
on the
Chinese regime, which I think is the best thing ever, because they've done enough damage to this earth with some of their policies, both foreign policy, military, like intellectual property theft. So if there is a silver lining to this, it's that we're beginning to turn on them and we're beginning to hold them to account, when in the past, it's either considered too racist or it's considered like, no, you need to think clearly. You need to think like Canada, the United States, and other countries around the world, and even countries that have at one point benefited, like the African countries that benefited from Chinese infrastructure projects for access to natural resources. They need to think of their national interest. So there is a silver lining to this.
But I think the problem also is like when there's conspiracy theories, like the 9/11 truther, right? The people that thought it was a controlled demolition. The problem is like you have those skeptics, right? They will discard every conspiracy theories without really looking at them and looking at it honestly, right? So you'll have a bunch of fucking people that would say, no, it doesn't look like controlled demolition. And it's like, but if you don't know how a controlled demolition should look like, obviously if you compare it to other controlled demolition, it's easy to draw parallels, right? So
of course.
So if you say it looks like controlled demolition, doesn't mean you believe it's controlled demolition. You just believe you're not trained enough to know if it's like controlled demolition or not. And that's the same thing with fucking lab leaks. Like if you say it's a lab leak, it doesn't mean that
It
it's a
was it
fucking
was it
yeah.
was
It,
done, it
it
was
might
done on
just be some
purpose.
guy.
I know.
Yeah, it might be just some fucking guy that like
Was
because
careless.
yeah, careless, or it just was honest. He steal a bat from the lab and then try to sell it on the wet market, right?
Yeah.
That could be that's the story I've been hearing at the
No,
beginning
of
of it.
course. No, of course. At the same time as well, can we just stop doing gain of function like research on viruses for goodness sakes? Like, can we just leave nature alone and not
Yeah,
find ways to fuck with it? Because nature will fuck with us back.
yeah. Like
Like,
it is exactly what John Stewart said at the beginning. Like we have to be recognizant for science and everything that bring the technology and everything and the
yeah,
shit that we love. But there's a thing we have to remark about scientists though. These
yeah,
motherfuckers, they don't know when to stop.
I know,
Yeah.
I
Like
know.
we have like two atomic bombs to testify of it. We have
Yeah,
like
Rob.
anthrax to testify for it. It's like it's fucking crazy. Like with all those
No, of
artificial
course.
bacteria or viruses, if they just throw them in the natures, will all life on Earth will be wiped out in a matter of fucking days.
To quote, I think the guy's name is Robert Oppenheimer, one of the main scientists
On the
behind the
Manhattan
development
Project.
of the Manhattan Project, which of course established the atomic bombs which destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He said that I have become death. I have become death, the destroyer of worlds. Like
Which is
basically
basically
quoting, like basically quoting like Hindu scripture
yeah.
on this issue, which it's like okay, like like if I could just say this, like when people, for example, are talking about genetic engineering and
Mm.
using like genetic engineering on humans to actually cure like genetic diseases and illnesses and cancers, that I'm all for.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then I think of okay, let's use it for that. But then it's like okay, I always make this reference when I'm thinking about this or when I'm talking about this issue with friends who, it happens that we talk about that kind of stuff because, hey, the conversation could go everywhere. I always think of, okay, let's again use genetic engineering and like not so much messing with nature, but like improving nature where objectively it could be improved on to again cure diseases and all that. But let's
Mm.
not, for example, use genetic engineering to come up with superhumans like Khan Noonien Singh from Star
Yeah.
Trek because again superior ability breeds superior ambition. So we have to have clearly delineated like boundaries that are never crossed at all
Okay, so
on the
Caleb
issue
has
of
a
science.
quick question.
Yeah,
Is it basically he wants to know, according to you, is it too late to turn on China? Because you have to be recognizant also for the fact or appreciate the fact that a big chunk of the way of life we have right now, like being able
true,
to pay for like cheap sneakers and that kind of stuff, comes from China. The fact that we
true.
exploit kids in China. So
No,
is it
and
too late to
also
turn on them?
I don't think it's too late if we have I would say a reckoning of sorts of how cheaply made our goods are,
Yeah.
or like I get where that conversation, I get where that question's coming from, and it's a very good question, Caleb and Melanie. Hello. It's good that you're
Hey,
home,
folks.
babe. Um, I think there needs to be a reckoning on that if we are
Yeah.
going to continue to be a society that uh if we're going to be if we're going to continue to just purchase cheaply made goods, or if we're actually, and I hope personally,
Yeah.
being more economically nationalist in my point of view, though I do understand where this point comes from. If we can try our best or do our best to repatriate as much of the manufacturing that was outsourced to China and elsewhere around the world back to Canada, though I do understand the implication with it, like for example, bringing back all of the textile manufacturing that at one point was
Yeah.
at the hub in Chabanel in my area of Ahuntsic Cartierville back there, because there's still plenty of space and plenty of empty lots where the textile factories that my paternal grandmother at one point worked at when she came here to Canada in the late 60s.
Mm.
I understand that where that comes from, but I'm hoping maybe not all of that manufacturing, but as much of the critical
Yeah,
manufacturing
like
is done in
building
Canada. Like,
car, building vaccine, medical supply,
yeah,
like
trying to
computers,
source
like
trying to source as much
outsourcing
of our food.
computers manufacture. Like that was the dumb move. Like considering all they just like picked up everything and they just like figure out a way to build the computers themselves.
Yeah.
Mm,
And of course, trying to produce as much of our food locally as possible to have
yeah,
food sovereignty. Like, you can shit on them all you want, but I think the Parti Québécois, when they were in power from like 2012 to 2014 in their minority government under Pauline Marois, they came. I think at that point they came up with I'd say a really reasonable idea of like, hey, let's try to have food sovereignty for the entire province to try to produce as much of our food as possible, either
yeah,
hot
which kind of
houses
makes
or
sense.
other things. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
like
does.
the big majority of what we eat should come from here.
As
Like
much as
obviously,
possible,
yeah,
depending
as
on if
much
our
as
climate will
yeah.
produce it, you know?
Yeah, there you go. So, but with technology, we can like trump up climate and do like like do production of certain vegetables for on a yearly basis.
Terraforming.
Yeah, there you go.
Terraforming and hot
There's that too.
housing.
So,
Yeah,
no, I think we kind of went around the whole thing. So,
it's all right.
no, that's cool. It's better to take a longer time on a subject instead of like just like going fast forward on like a bunch of fucking subjects. So let's get to Bike equal act. Okay, yeah. That's all the pick was the whole thing like that. All right, so let's get to the second subjects. It's kind of related, but not that much.
Yep. I'll.
There's U.S. politicians that are now pissed because they would like Canada to they would like Canada to open the border now because
Yep. So
most Americans are have the two doses. So the basically what we talked about before going live, it will be
yeah,
kind of nice if you have like your two shots to be able to have more freedom.
yeah. So I definitely get where they're coming from on that front because, of course, I think we know personally a few of our potential listeners, like Stephanie Murga, who's in Las
Yeah,
Vegas, for example, who already had her 2 doses, and I
yeah.
think she wants to come visit us in Montreal, which would be lovely because hey, it would be nice to have our international listeners and fans like
Yeah,
Stephanie,
I
like
like.
Jessarel, to come up to Montreal to see
I
what we
like
have.
also to
So
make fun of our fucking team losing or their bit the Stanley Cup again. Like to yeah,
exactly,
like
exactly.
being a Sharks fan and like just fucking nagging at her about the fact that our team cannot get a hand on the fucking Stanley Cup, even though they have like cheated their way there by changing the fucking rules of all the extension draft would work. Oh, it's another subject. Sorry.
I'm not at all versed in hockey or any sports, so that's your domain. Like, I would have to follow your lead on that. But no.
Yeah.
To get back to the topic, we're seeing more and more American politicians, especially like members of Congress, like members of the House of Representative and senators from the border states, who often depend on the spending of Canadian tourists. So like for example, like I myself, like before the pandemic, like literally a month before it started, in 2020, I visited Jersey City and New York City because I had a regional leadership conference for the fraternity that
Mm.
I'm involved in. So the fact that I went there and spent,
Fraternity.
yeah, that's a whole other story for a whole other day, Joey. But I was
Or
there. I spent money in local restaurants, to get the New York style pizza. I went and spent money at like the Nintendo World Store in
mm.
Manhattan. So the fact that I went there and spent like I got this shirt at the Nintendo World Store in New York
Oh
City.
shit!
Yeah,
You dress up for the podcast, eh?
yeah.
There you go.
The benefit of hindsight or foresight, whatever it is.
There you go.
anyways, so like we're seeing a lot of American politicians from those border states, and of course we have to recognize the fact that like many Americans who live on the border states have family
Mm.
like in Quebec or in Ontario. Like I have a friend of mine who lives who in New York, who has family living in Ontario and has visited Montreal a couple of times just to see the sites. Like we're like there's always that like interconnectedness between the border states like New York and Ohio,
Mm.
Illinois, and of course Ontario and Quebec, and of course the interconnectedness between British Columbia and Washington State as well. Who can
Yeah.
forget that, you know? So we're seeing a lot of Americans saying like, why is Trudeau continuing to be so overly cautious when a majority of our population is already fully vaccinated?
Yeah.
From one point of view, like for those who have been fully vaccinated with their 2 shots, let them come up
Yeah,
without the necessity of
basically.
the 14-day mandatory, without the 3-day quarantine hotel. Just let them come up. Uh, let them come up. Let
You don't
them
even you
spend
don't
some
need
of their
you don't even need an extra paperwork because when you think about it, there are some places when you have to travel to, they will like basically ask you to get some sort of vaccine and it's in your fucking
yeah,
passports.
yeah,
So I don't understand what is the hold up. Just like check on the
yeah.
passport if they have their COVID-19 vaccine to get in, and that's it.
Yeah, no. They should like again. I know for a fact that our friend Stephanie Murga in Las Vegas, like she got
Yeah,
both her shots. She already scheduled. She actually booked her flights to come up at the end of July, so
yeah,
that she could see like you, me, Melanie, of course,
yeah.
folks
See
from
the gang.
Jofo and
Yeah.
the Pantelis. Like let her come up without the necessity of the COVID
Uh,
hotel quarantine hotels, which would
so
have
the thing,
costed more than the Airbnb that she would have
yeah.
potentially got in Montreal. So it's like let them come up and let the Canadians who have been fully vaccinated go back to the United States for whatever reason.
It's not
Like for
only
me,
Americans. Like I remember,
I
I've
know.
heard about like a bunch of fucking Quebecers that went to Florida and they had their 2 shots, which give
Yeah,
make you think about your own healthcare system and all the thing has been managed by us like in a piss poor fashion. And
yeah.
basically, they were coming back with the 2 doses, like they were fully vaccinated, and they still had to go to the hospital, to the hospital or something.
Which is the most ridiculous thing because we have all heard
It
the
is.
horror.
It is.
It is the most horrible thing, and of course we've heard of the few truly horrible stories where
Right.
the private security at some of these hotels who are enforcing people to forcing people to stay in the rooms. Stories of sexual assault, which is just
Yeah.
horrible. Like I
Yeah.
think the conservative MP Michelle Rempel Garner definitely did a lot on that on social media and on the floor of the House, which good for her. Thank you so much, ma'am, for fighting on that front. So I just find it a bit ridiculous that we're still like I'm happy to see that because we're getting many more doses than we had expected, though I do understand that we're paying a premium. There is the push by the provincial governments with coordination from the federal government so that if you want to push your second dose vaccine, we can push the second dose vaccine. Like I'm not going to push it because I'm not in a rush, but yeah, I just find it ridiculous. It's good to see that the Americans on a bipartisan basis are saying, "Hey, let's just get this over with." Like, stop being overly cautious. Let our
Yeah.
fully vaccinated folks come up to Canada so that they can enjoy themselves and stimulate your local economy, which we
And
definitely
people fully
need.
vaccinated to be able to go down to the United States. And talking about it being fully vaccinated now, there's starting Monday. If you're 30 and over, which is pretty much our fan base, like the 3 people watching,
Yeah,
you can like reschedule your second dose to have it earlier. So that's
yeah,
something that might be interesting. So I'm sure hoping to be able to have my second dose like somewhere around July. And speaking about those prisons for COVID-19 people that just come to Canada like from the United States or anything,
yeah,
like that's kind of a proof that like a little bit of power, like anybody with a little bit of power will fucking abuse it. And talking about abuse of power, there have been
yeah,
other there have been footage of a bunch of Montreal police kneeling on a black kid on a neck. So if you want to talk
yeah.
about it a little bit,
No, of course. It has to be said. So, folks, just to focus on a story locally to Montreal, we had a situation where the Montreal police, who have already a notorious rap with the various communities, like the African Canadian and
yeah,
other communities, like they already have a bit of a bad rap. There was an incident where a couple of cops at a bus stop were effectively kneeling on the back of the neck of a kid, quite like what happened with George Floyd
yeah,
in Minnesota last year. Like when I saw the news that this was happening, I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, didn't police forces around the world, especially in Canada and the United States, upon seeing what happened to George Floyd, they're just like,
yeah,
okay, you know what? We're not going to do that shit. We're going to actually attempt to do
yeah,
our jobs as normally and as non-violently as possible. We
yeah,
only draw for our gun, our taser, or to use such tactics when, if let's say that person who we're trying to apprehend is actually committing violence themselves. Is that, if let's say that person had a very nasty or powerful weapon himself, or was inciting, like in that case, yeah. If let's
Yeah.
say the person who was shooting at people, okay, yeah, there's that expectation that you're going
But
to
what are
use
training them
violence,
in?
but like
Physical
this is
oh, go on. Sorry.
like this is again where again, like they like the police forces, sure, there needs to be far better training. There
Yeah.
needs to be, okay, 4 days of the week they're out there in their cars or walking on the street doing their thing, but one day during the week they need to focus it exclusively on training, like
Yeah.
making
Actual
sure,
training. Yeah.
like learning, learning again how to de-escalate a situation, how to properly
Scenarios.
handle little petty little things,
Yeah.
versus like handling like like potentially violent criminals. Like there needs to be better training on that front. This is just
And
like
based on their skill too, because I look at them right now, and I'm pretty sure they don't know how to fight. Like, I look at them, and I'm not like, it's fucking crazy to me that when you're two on one guy, you have the need to put your knees on his neck. That one is a hard one to me. Like, you're both on this guy,
yeah,
and you didn't
yeah,
find any better way to hold him on the ground, so your fucking partner can just put the handcuff on him.
yeah. So this happened at a bus stop in the borough of Villeray Park X, which we all know has some of the less well-off people from a wide variety of backgrounds. And the police themselves were responding from a call. They were from Station 31. They were responding from a call from George Vanier High School about a fight that was breaking out from several students from George Vanier and other high schools. Like it was just a simple brawl that was going on. It appears, according to news articles and according to a CBC Montreal article that we are referencing, discussing the issue, it appears that like the specific teen that was being choked effectively wasn't resisting arrest, wasn't doing
Yeah.
anything that could have provoked the cops to do what they did. So again, like Caleb, I completely get where you're coming from. Like they're not supposed to be psychologists, but again, to get into law enforcement, I honestly think that you need to learn. You need to somewhat be a jack of all trades. Like you need to understand like how to do your job properly, to have the basics of psychology, the basics of like political science, and like learning
Not
about rights and
necessarily
freedoms and all that
psychology,
stuff.
just common sense. Like
And
basically
common sense as well too.
being able
Of
to
course.
hold somebody on the ground without fucking putting the knees on the neck. Like, is it something you see in MMA? No, you don't see that, because they know how to fucking put a guy on the floor and they can hold him there, right? There's no
Without
need
doing
for that.
it is said that the two officers in question were doing this like for at one point the knee was on the neck for about 37 to 38
Ugh.
seconds, which is, again, it's like the video itself that was filmed by a passerby was about 1 minute and 41 seconds long. The video is, of course, there for all to see on and maybe Joey, if you want to just pin that in the public comments so that people can see it for themselves, because
Or
hey, we
better
want to
than
make
that.
sure. Yeah, of course.
All right, there you go.
Of course, there was some political pushback or some like political reaction from what was going on. So France Benjamin, who is an elected member, who is one of the few black members of the Quebec National Assembly, a provincial liberal representing the
handcuffed.
riding of
What
Viau.
do you expect him to do? Like, his hand on his, like, is in the back of his fucking body. Like, he cannot do anything. Why does the knee still on the neck? Why you're still kneeling on the guy? Like, you have your partner
ridiculous.
just there. Like, if he's running away, you can just fucking catch him.
Of course.
It's fucking. I know, like, it's pretty easy. Sit it down, like where I am, to comment on that kind of fucking thing. But look at that. There's no reason
I
for
know.
him to be over this guy like he is.
I know.
Like, have you ever tried to like just get up while having your back tied on in your hand tied on in your back? There's no
logic
fucking
to
way.
it. No. And to say this, like I used to practice Taekwondo martial arts. way back in the day when I was in elementary school and in high school, they never like when we would spar and we would fight, like there were strict rules
Yeah,
on what you could and what you could not do.
yeah,
And we all knew that trying to get at someone's neck is certainly not one thing that you want to do, because if you did that, like the master who was supervising everything and everyone else who was watching and spectating, because they would do one-on-one fights in front of everyone, you would be hounded
you shit.
for
Okay,
it, and
yeah.
you would be physically restrained by everyone else who was there. So no, like
Even in judo, where you can do like attack like that, like throwing somebody on the ground, holding him on the ground, doing some mission and move and stuff like that. Like you don't see the knees on the neck.
no,
There's better way to keep somebody on the ground.
like using all of your arms and all of your legs, like
Yeah,
to hold them in place while the airway is still there. Like
yeah,
again, like you don't even see this shit happening in UFC fights and in
exactly.
wrestling. You
Yeah.
know?
No, this is fucking crazy, and it kind of showed the lack of training they're having. Like, I can only because we see a lot of these fucking videos where you have like 5 cups on one guy. The guy
Yeah,
doesn't look like that threatening. He doesn't look that
yeah,
athletic or anything, and he can just fucking mow through them.
of course,
The fuck's happening?
of
Like,
course.
it doesn't feel safe. Like, I don't feel safe with these guys with a lack of training running
Yeah,
around, right?
yeah,
I mean, no, I shouldn't feel like having some years of training of judo or BJJ, I can whip them out. That
no, of
shouldn't happen.
course. No,
I
no, of
like it.
course.
It's fucking stupid. They need some proper training. Like defunding the police, it's not the right solution because
No, of
you
course.
need the cops to be properly trained. Like proper
Yeah.
training that prevent you to doing stupid shit like you we're seeing right now.
No, no, of course. No, no, of course. Um,
Yeah, I
I
think we
think with
pretty much went around what we wanted to talk about today,
yeah,
and we were
we
pretty
did.
much on the timeline we wanted to stop it. So let's stop
Yeah.
it for today. Nicholas, what do you have to plug in?
Not much. Just to say, folks, given that I'm doing the Quick and Dirty show on Saturdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm thinking, and I may make the decision by tonight, I think I'm going to be switching the time of my own thing, The Adventures of Captain YOLO, to maybe Sundays at 7 p.m., just so that I'm not overwhelmed with 2 podcasts a day. So I think I may make that decision, though I will let you all know on Instagram and on Facebook later on, as well as Discord. And other than that, I'm just working hard, just making sure I'm doing everything good, spending as much quality time with my lovely girlfriend, Melanie, as possible. So, yep, that's pretty much it. And also, certainly,
All right.
we're going to be there tomorrow at the comedy thing at the Brass Door pub.
Yeah. So talking about it, I think Claudio is doing that show, or somebody else in the. No, no, I were going to see it, but I don't. I think
I think
Claudio is
Tom
doing.
Sin.
Thompson is doing Sunday. Yeah. So we're
Yeah,
gonna watch it because yeah, tomorrow night, we're gonna do something quite different. We're not going to go live. Basically, what we're gonna do, it's we're just gonna record it somewhere in the afternoon, and then it's gonna be premiered on the YouTube channel. But basically, you can just watch it like later on if you want.
yeah,
So it's gonna be the same old plain old program. Where it is just the four of us talk, like shooting the shit for at least 2 hours. Tomorrow night at the Brass Door on Crescent Street, there's the one of Straight Out of Montreal shows. He put on a really cool shows usually, but it's an open mic mostly, so it's gonna be really really interesting. I know for sure that the 34 crew is gonna be there. Nicolas is gonna be there for sure. We're gonna spend some time together, and
yep.
that's about it, guys. If you have nothing to add,
Nope.
basically, thank you. For what is my ending? I have no ending. Fuck off. Bye.